Kiran's is somewhat contradictory stance. She is for feminine empowerment, but today she is on the side of the Indian sons. Apparently contradictory, but actually what she is doing is the right thing. The Constitution of India, Article 14 particularly, says that there should be no discrimination between citizens and persons who on the ground of, one inter alia on the ground of gender. But at the same time, there is a provision that the state is permitted to make laws which are especially in favor of children, women and other categories. Now when you make a law, you are giving virtually a big stick in the hands of the section which gets the benefit of the law. Now, whether you should give a stick or a loaded gun is for the parliamentarians to carefully consider and debate it. The rape laws were being misused in this country, there is no doubt about it. The rate of conviction generally is poor. With rape, it was even worse. A woman would hardly ever go to the police station and make a complaint. The consequences for the complainant would be terrible because she would have to live through a very inglorious and painful period of her life. And she would have to repeat it to so many police officers, give testimony in the court, and be subjected to humiliation. This was the whole reason why Parliament thought that the law needed to be slightly tilted in favor of women. But what is really important, I appreciated this statement from one of the lawyers who made this, who was interviewed on the picture, that let's say a woman makes a complaint against Mr. X that he has raped me. What is necessary is the woman who is making this complaint a disempowered person? Now you go to the interior in some village, there is a Dalit woman. Undoubtedly you have to empower them, there is no doubt about that. But if it is in a major metropolis where women know what their rights are, women know how to go about seeking redressal before the fora, the investigation should be in a manner that doesn't really tilt the justice and make it topsy-turvy. Otherwise, what are you doing? In the name of empowerment, you are rendering injustice and you are doing something that the Constitution has not even thought of. This is not only in respect of rape. What happens in the case of dowry harassment and dowry deaths and all that? Not only that, I am going one step ahead and say, all these special laws, for example, I have come across, I have been a judge for about 16 years of my life. Before that, I was a lawyer for 28 years. And even after ceasing to be a judge, I am still connected with the law at the age of 81. Now, the point is, in fact, I remember that there was, I will not name the parties, there was this case of a very strong lady, an IAS woman, who was just patted on the behind in a party, and the matter went all the Supreme Court. She was right. It was her right to be left alone. It's for her not to be not subjected to such a humiliation. And the man who did it was a very highly decorated officer. And yet, because of that, the conviction was upheld by the Supreme Court. Now, in the case of all these disempowered sections of society, for example, there is law which protects people from the lower status of society like Dalits and people like that. My experience has been that where other things are equal, the judge should take a lenient, soft view with regard to the person who is disempowered. But if parties are otherwise capable of doing their own business, fighting their own battles, to tilt the law upside down and say, whatever the woman says is the gospel truth and whatever the man says is not true, is not doing justice at all. In fact, I would say this would be a surest way of disempowering persons whom you want to empower. Why do I say this? Now if you look at the statistics, of course there is a lot of cry by feminist organizations that rape should be subjected to death penalty. What happens in such a case is, if the judge cannot get out of the law and the law is strict, he will try to find a convenient way of saying the evidence is not sufficient and acquit him. That is precisely what has happened in rape cases, and that is precisely what is going to happen subsequently if you find that the law is so stringent that it is being misused and more number of misuses are coming there. The statistic shows that even after the amendment, there has been lesser number of convictions, lesser number of cases where justice has been done. So friends, I think it is time for us to look at it in a very objective manner. Is this a case where the law should really go ahead and empower a person who is subjected to cruelty, subjected to inhibition, subjected to atrocity? Yes, you should. Otherwise, the general rule of the law, the accused is presumed to be innocent until proved guilty, should have applied. The more the number of occasions when you invert this rule of law, the more complications, because people are always willing to take advantage of the law for their own selfish motives. Now you saw all those cases where it was shown either it is personal revenge or a question of extorting money from people by blackmailing. Now, how did this happen? It happens because the attitude of the investigating agency, the attitude of the judiciary is not objective. Somehow the judiciary thinks Parliament has said this should be done, so in every case I must presume that the woman is speaking the gospel truth. That, ladies and gentlemen, is not the intention of the law. That certainly is not the intention with which you can go about empowering women. And the ultimate analysis, you will find that people will start disbelieving, and you all know that story of a boy who cried wolf too many times. If you have too many wolf cries, then you don't believe it, and then the situation will be, whatever the law may say, the judge will not believe the story. That should not be the result, because then what happens is, the real disempowered women will not get justice at the cost of some of this strident feminist. I'm not against feminist. Feminism is good as long as it fights for the rights of the women. But if in the bargain you are trampling on someone else's rights, you should consider that also. Thank you very much, Deepika, for coming out with this very. I said I may not be able to sit here through, and I wanted to watch it. She was good enough to send me the file, the link containing this film. I watched it with intent, concentration day before yesterday night, and I must say that I agree with most of the things that have been said there. It is time that this kind of a movement is started, so that the balance which has gone like this should at least be tilted, if not 50-50, at least 60-40. Thank you very much.